Welcome home. I'm Dr.Thema, a minister, licensed psychologist, and sacred artist. And this is Homecoming, a podcast to facilitate your journey home to yourself. While I will provide weekly inspiration and mental health tips, this podcast is not the same as personalized therapy. I'm so excited you're on the journey. If you want to request specific topics or to submit a poem for me to read on the podcast, email me at homecomingpodcast@gmail.com. Also, to build our community, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Let's begin. Welcome home, Cojourners. I'm so glad you're here, and I'm grateful we have a poem submission from Anwari Kasaya, and the poem is entitled Fading. At this point, I'm tired. Believe what you want to believe. Baby, take what you want to take. Exhausted. When did you ever ask for permission? Why do you want to start now? Resilient. Is what they want to brand me. Strong. Their favorite comparison. No, baby, I'm famished. I've had to be this way. There was never another option. I'm dying. You've heard my defeat and had the nerve to call it war cries. Can you hear me? I'm not okay. I don't know how to say it in a way that you'll accept it. Femininity is what you stripped away. I'm trying to make it stay. Strong Black woman. No, baby, I'm fading. Why is strength glorified at the expense of my humanity? Why so much emphasis on resilience? I bleed too. I cry too. Acknowledging that doesn't make me complacent. It makes me human. I'm not strong. I'm fading. Oh, this is so important, Anwari. Thank you so much for writing it and for having your friend or allowing your friend to share it. So many times people are forced into these boxes, the strong one, the resilient one, the capable one, and it is important for us to hear the cries, for us to see the fatigue, for us to acknowledge the overwhelm, and to show up for each other. And so on today, we're going to talk about supporting your strong friend. So what are some signs that your strong friend may actually be struggling? One of the things that we can see, observe, is that the strong friend may dive even deeper into their work. So sometimes being a workaholic or a perfectionist is the way of trying to manage the distress. And so they may seem even busier than usual, and also recognizing their humanity because people often give them a lot of work or responsibility, and they end up taking on and accepting a lot from other people. And so while they may already be a person who is productive, when you see them in overdrive, doing even more than usual, it's important to remember their humanity in those moments and to tune into what it may feel like for them when every time they communicate with people, it's an additional request instead of support. So instead of thinking about their effectiveness or efficiency or their capacity to be of service to you, to say, I'm going to come out of the crowd of people who are making requests, and instead I want to really show up for my friend. Not only may you see an increase in the work that they're doing, you may also start to think about when was the last time you heard them acknowledge their own humanity, acknowledge their own fatigue, acknowledge their own limitation, and consider in our friendship, are they ever able to share their vulnerability? And if they are not, are there ways in which I am communicating that is causing them to feel the pressure to perform in front of me instead of to access me on the level of friendship, on the level of authentic connection and communication? And so if they always are presenting as if everything is fine or everything is under control, if there is never a moment of sharing beyond the surface, then you may really want to check in and think about what you can do differently in the friendship to shift the tide, which would often be around shifting our communication and my expectation, because people often operate at this level of what is expected of them so they can determine what kind of friendship this is. So when I see my strong friend going into overdrive and being super busy, when I reflect on the fact that my strong friend has never shown fatigue or vulnerability in my presence, those may be signs that I really need to do a better job of checking in. And also, when I start to notice my strong friend disappearing, a lot of times the friend who is super strong only feels like they can show up when they are at their highest strength. And then when they're struggling, they may disappear because they don't want to be a burden, or they believe that people won't want to show up for them or won't know how to show up for them. And so when the strong friend disappears, often they are dealing with a lot. They may be in crisis. They may be overwhelmed. And so you want to take that as a warning sign that the supportive, vocal, central person has suddenly gone quiet. And so it's not for us to then pull on them to be the cheerleader or to be the entertainment for the group, but instead for members of the friendship circle to actually turn to them as a source for them to be a source of support for the strong friend. You may also notice with the strong friend an increase in irritability, being irritable or short tempered or impatient. They may have become resentful because they are used to taking care of everything for everyone and actually are in a season when they're struggling and noticing that no one shows up for them. So instead of just saying, oh, they have a bad attitude or oh, they're being negative, to consider whenever we have a shift in our attitude or in our emotions, there's usually a story there, or there may be a pattern there. And so instead of showing vulnerability, distress, or overwhelm, it may show up as being more irritable or being the emotional response may be read as negative, but within or underneath that quote unquote negative tone really may be their sense of distress, and that is what, the way it is being communicated. You also want to consider for your strong friend if you know that they are facing some specific challenges or going through some life changes. So, even if they have not complained about it, even if they have not named that it's difficult, if you know what is on their plate, you have an understanding that for most human beings, this would be difficult. So I can respond to this friend in a way that assumes that there may be some challenge to this season of their life. So if your friend is going through a job change, a relationship change, having to move, having lost a loved one, had a change in their financial circumstance, had a promotion. Sometimes it's not a quote unquote negative. They could be receiving more or doing more, but that also comes with additional pressure. So we want to be aware and be mindful of what our friend may be carrying, given what we know about the changes that are happening in their life. You also want to be mindful of if your friend doesn't look like themselves, in the sense of they have not been taking care of themselves in the way that they normally would. So when your friend kind of feels on top of things, then there may be a way that they show up in public that would reflect that. And then when they are feeling stressed and overwhelmed, even if they don't say it, you can tell by perhaps their facial expression, by the ways in which they are dressing or not dressing, or taking care of their skin or their hair. So often, those who are the strong one will neglect themselves while taking care of everything else. So when you see that self neglect, that's something you want to pay attention to. And you also want to be mindful if you are in a circle of people that are struggling and they're all pulling on the strong friend, that's a good indicator to you to know that this person may be in need because they're carrying so much. So they may be taking care of their parents, taking care of their children, taking care of things at a high demand job, taking care of their friends, and you notice that no one is providing care for them, that no one is pouring into them. So you want to not ignore that and actually be a part of shifting that dynamic. We also recognize that for sometimes with our strong friend, they may disappear from social media, or their social media posts may have an undercurrent or sometimes a direct messaging that all is not well, that they are struggling in some ways or facing some difficulties. Sometimes the things that people post are a reflection of the challenges that they are facing. So we want to not ignore those messages. So they may not have shared it with you directly, but you see either their absence in that space or the messages that they're putting out are giving you some indication that something is going on. So when you notice these things in your strong friend, and I want to also name not waiting for a change in their behavior, right? So all of these are examples of if your strong friend is going through some difficulty, but I want to name even if your strong friend is not facing difficulty, just by virtue of the fact that we're supposed to be friends, you should work to make the friendship mutual and reciprocal and caring. So then, how can you check in with your strong friend, be supportive of your strong friend, actually be a friend to your strong friend? One of the ways we want to think about that is actually directly asking, how have things been for you? Right? So, not that scripted language of how are you, fine, how are you, but really slowing down and checking in and asking them and reflecting on what you've observed. I know you have a lot on your plate, so what has it been like for you? What's been helpful and what's been challenging about this season? And so, by asking more specific questions with compassion and without judgment, you're more likely to get an honest answer. You can also let them know that you want to be there to support them and even to ask them, how can you support them during this time? Or sometimes they're so overwhelmed or they're not used to asking for help. so you can offer something specific. So as you observe them and what you know about them, what are the things that give them joy? What are the things that they find relaxing? What are the things that are on their plate that perhaps you could help with? And so offering your support. So that might be emotional support or instrumental support. Emotional support is me being a listening ear and just being that safe place where the person can vent or share, or instrumental social support. There may be things that they actually need help with getting done and that you're willing to assist. And that may take different forms. It may be helping them around their family obligations. It may be helping them financially if they've taken on a big load and you're able to provide some support. It may be helping them with their artistic or creative endeavors. It may be helping them with whatever their professional goals are. And so, being honest about your desire to help support them, to be there for them, that whether that's helping them win at whatever it is they're trying to succeed in, or helping them to relax so that you are a carrier of joy, not just another person who has a request, right? And then it's also important to encourage them to set their boundaries, including their boundaries with you, right? So that would mean if you have some things going on, before unloading that on them, to ask them, are they in the space today or in this moment where they have capacity to hear it, or where they would like to hear it, or, if not, you can share with them what you were going to share on another day in another season. So you having boundaries yourself and really encouraging them to use their boundaries with you, but and also their boundaries with other people. If you notice that they never tell anyone no and they're always doing the most and it just seems overwhelming, to plant that seed. Some times we need to say no so we can say yes to ourselves, or yes to our rest, or yes to the things we have already agreed to. And so, I wonder, are there any things you're feeling like saying no to in this season? Or what may make it hard to say no to some people and some things? And so that encouragement can really be experienced as support, that you are looking out for them and that you care about them. It will also be important if you're one of the people who really rely on this person to think about resources for yourself in addition to this person. So it's not that you will never share with them again, but it is if you have ever considered getting mental health support from a professional that can help the friendship. And also, if you don't just call them when you're in crisis, but so that the experience of the friendship isn't, oh, if this person is reaching out, they need me for something or they need me to do something, so that when you have challenges, that sometimes this is your resource person, but that there are some other people in your life that you reach out to in those moments, and that you also reach out to your strong friend when you're not in crisis or when you don't need them to solve it. It is also important for us to encourage self-care. So I mentioned the strong one might neglect themselves. And so encouraging them not only around setting boundaries, but doing things for their joy, doing things for their peace, doing things that fill them up, that are fulfilling, that are just for them, that it doesn't have to be, oh, let me do this because it's going to help me to help somebody else, but for them to really receive the message that they are not just an instrument or a vehicle or a pathway for other people to have a better life, but that they also are deserving of kindness, of respect, of love, of goodness, of respect and rest, that they are deserving an abundant life and a fulfilling life, that they are deserving of care and compassion from themselves and from others. So this will help us to come home to ourselves so that we are a better friend. And it will also help our friends to come home to themselves by knowing that each person in this friendship is worthy. I invite your soul to tell your heart, mind, body, and spirit, welcome home.
Beautiful.